Screech by Taran NCT on AO3. Episode 28, Chapter 29. Akio Atsuro had never been more glad that he never took his mask off as he was now. It's not like he was particularly fond of Spinner, but the way the blonde kid killed him without a second thought was shocking, and he hadn't managed to hide his expression. If this asshole was just gonna kill teammates for a simple expression of opinion, Ashiro was not going to be sticking around. No way in hell. This was going way beyond what he had signed up for. Granted, he had volunteered for this mission, but even as an undercover hero like him, the detective hero, sleight of hand, was a line he just can't cross. Ashiro had joined up with the League of Villains shortly after they had attacked UA at the USJ. He had originally missioned to be arresting them all. That had changed upon the discovery of Sensei. After that, his mission had just been to find and arrest him. After all, if he got away, he could always just create a new villain organization, and all of his affirmations would have been for nothing. He subtly looked at the rest of his teammates and saw familiar looks of horror in them all. They all signed up to work with Shigaraki, not this psycho, and they all had valid reasons for it. Ashiro was going to get as many of them out of here as he could, mainly since the ones he had a real criminal record had been Moonfish and Muscular, both of whom had been caught during the training camp. And then he was going to call the other heroes to get this nuisance off the streets. Ashiro declared to bribe his time until the blonde went upstairs before he tapped Mage on the shoulder. "Would you be opposed to a midnight stroll, my lady?" he asked her, using his most Salvatone tone of voice. She snorted, but readily agreed, probably having similar thoughts about getting the fuck out of here before it was too late. They left the bar together, idly chatting about a restaurant that had opened up recently, until they were far and away enough for Ashiro's comfort. "I'm not staying," he said suddenly. "This is a heads up." She glanced over to him and nodded. "Same. I'll be going back tonight, though. I can't leave without Himi-chan. She's too young. She doesn't deserve this." Ashiro noted. "I can probably wait a few hours before calling in a tip to the heroes. Get her and get out." Toga was only 17. She really was too young to have been caught up with this mess. Ashiro wished there was more he could do for her. But without compromising his position, he just had to let her go. He thought about slipping a tracker on the kid, but she'll be sure to notice it before he could track her down again. Mage sighed. "I actually had slightly high hopes about the League when I joined. I had hoped that Shigaraki would be able to dismantle society and get people like me, Spinner, and Himo-chan more rights. A better way of life. But this kid, he's more likely to kill us than to change anything." Mage shuddered. "Honestly, after what happened with Spinner, I'm surprised I'm still alive." He nodded along with her. "I didn't really have any grand reason for joining. I was just bored. But this looked like fun. But I'm not willing to get killed just to ease the boredom." He paused and let out a sigh. "I'm not going back, but I'll give you 2 to 3 hours to get her and get out." "Make it more like 6. I'm going to invite her to, say, a girls' day. Maybe a spa trip, nails, hair, things like that," she said. "We've done it before. Shouldn't be too suspicious." Hashira hummed and thought. If he let too much time pass, either their sensei would get suspicious or Kirigiri would. He couldn't let either of them figure out he wasn't coming back. Otherwise, they might change locations and the kid they kidnapped would end up dead. He couldn't let that happen. The kid looked like he might be Eraserhead's kid. He hadn't noticed at first. He had just been told, purple-haired kid. And so, that's the kid he captured. But after getting a good look at him... No, he couldn't wait 6 more hours to report this. Eraserhead would gut him alive if anything happened to his son. And Ashiro wanted to live. He was already skating a fine line after having taken this kid to start with. I'll give you into sunrise, he compromised. Mage nodded. The heroes will still need some time to plan, so we should have at least until noon before they come. Good luck, Hashiro said, honestly hoping Mage and Toga were able to get out of this. Maybe we'll see each other again in another job someday. Take care of yourself, Compress. Hitoshi had noticed the tense in the room after the lizard guide was killed. And when the people you've been kidnapped by are scared of their minds, you know you're not gonna have a good time. He watched as the magician left with the buff lady, and was relieved when the guy in the full bodysuit went to the corner and started talking to himself, and was quickly joined by the girl. That left him with just 2 people paying attention to him. The purple mist guy he was pretty sure was named Karagiri, and the emo guy with the blue fire. Hey, so I don't think I got your name. He asked the emo blue fire guy. Maybe if they're stuck up in a conversation, he can manage to use his quirk on someone. It seemed no one knew what his quirk was, since they hadn't taken any precautions with keeping him quiet. The guy looked at him for a moment, before glancing towards the stairs, and sighing. Name's Dabi, he murmured. Cool. I'm Shinsou. Is there a reason you guys took me, or? He asked, fishing for information. Dabi pulled a chair next to Hitoshi and flopped on it. You weren't the original target, he admitted. There's a kid who has an abusive asshole as a dad. I was sure we could get him to turn to our case. Abusive? He's not talking about Shouta, is he? Hitoshi thought to himself. Endeavor hadn't been abusive to his family in over 10 years, but Hitoshi remembered the stories that Natsu had told him. Okay, if I wasn't the original target, what changed? Our leader. Dabi pulled a packet of cigarettes and tapped one out of the pack. Damn, nearly out. He grumbled. Gonna have to get a new pack soon. Ignoring the comment about the cigarettes, Hitoshi spoke up again. The leader changed her mind? No, the leader died. New leader, new target. Shigaraki was interested in recruitment. Bakugou's interested in revenge. Apparently he wants to kill some green-haired bird kid. Dabi shrugged, and lit the cigarette with a blue flame from his fingers, and took a puff, as all the color drained from Hitoshi's face. They were after Izuku. You were only to be taken if we couldn't find the green kid. I guess you're bait or some shit. Normally Hitoshi wouldn't be worried about his brother. He knows how strong Izuku is. Izuku could wipe the floor with any of these guys. But right now, if Izuku finds out Hitoshi was taken to get him, who knows what effect that'll have in his already fragile mind state. If he comes, what's gonna happen to him? Hitoshi asked, quietly. Dabi shrugged. Pretty sure Bakugou wants to kill him. Think he'll kill you too after everything's done. Hitoshi closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Okay, he could work with this. So far, it seems Dabi doesn't know his quirk, so catching him in it shouldn't be too hard. His wrists were tied together behind the chair he was sitting on, and Dad had taught him how to get the knots out with his capture scarf, so this shouldn't be too different, right? He just need to make sure no one was watching. To be honest, Dabi continued, voice at a whisper, I can't stand that punk-ass brat. Dabi pulled out his phone and started playing some game. Keep your cool, and who knows, when the time is right, I might get you out of here. But don't try to fuck with me, or I'll go for smoke and never come back. He looked up and met Hitoshi's gaze. Understand me, kid? Hitoshi blinked at him for a moment, and then slowly grinned. I don't care what you say, Izuku stated for what felt like the millionth time. I'm coming along to save my brother. Baby, Hizashi said, again for what felt like the millionth time. You know this is going to be dangerous. The League of Villains... Izuku interrupted him. They weren't hard for me to deal with last time. I can do it again. I'm getting my brother back. Izuku, Shouta stated, deciding it was his turn to try. Please, I want you to stay safe. And the last time I said I'm coming, Izuku insisted. You can decide if I come in a legal aspect or if I come as a vigilante, but I'm gonna be there. Keigo hesitantly raised his hand. a lie, but Baby Bro's got a point. I'm the only one who could keep up with him in the sky, and I'm not gonna try to stop him. I think he'll be a huge help in getting Hitoshi back. Shouta pinched the bridge of his nose. Yes, he'll be a huge help, but that's not the point. Shouta! Izuku's eyes were full of determination. I heard you tell Sashi what the captured villains said. They were going after me and only took Hodo as bait for me. I have to go. I'm the one they're after, and I will not let my brother suffer in my place. Damn it. Shouta hissed. You weren't supposed to hear that. Izuku glared at him. Then don't forget how good my hearing is next time. I'm coming along to get my brother back, and you can't stop me. Keigo put an arm around Izuku's shoulder. Seriously, guys? You know Izuku will find a way to come, no matter how much you try to stop him. Shouta and Hizashi exchanged a look before giving twin sighs of defeat. Fine, Hizashi said, finally. You can come along. Izuku nodded in determination. Hitoshi had no idea how much time has passed, but he'd been chatting about cats and motorcycles with Dabi for a while. Hitoshi had spent a while in the passing talking with Shota's brother Natsume about motorcycles, and talking to Dabi, reminding him a lot of those talks. Natsume had told him that their eldest brother, Toya, had been obsessed with motorcycles, and that he had gotten into them as a way to keep the memory alive of him. As their talks went on, Hitoshi started to notice a few other things about Dabi that reminded him of his boyfriend and his brother. He had a very similar sense of humor to Natsuo. His eyes were the same blue as Shota's left eye, the same blue as Endeavor's. When he had thought, a whisper of a memory Shouta had told him back to him. Toya's fire was blue, and it burned so hot his body couldn't handle it. His quirk burned him. Hitoshi could only gape at Dabi, opening and closing his mouth with no sound coming out for a while, before finally managing, "Holy shit," in a whisper. Dabi looked at him and raised an eyebrow. You good, kid? You just remind me of someone. He stuttered. Oh yeah? Who? My boyfriend's dead older brother. He answered quietly. Dropping his voice to an almost whisper, he said, Todoroki Toya. Dabi stiffened his eyebrows wide. Shouta or Natsui? He asked in a voice just as quiet. Shouta. Dabi just stared at him for several long seconds, and then leaned back in his chair. Shit. Hitoshi was about to ask Dabi to confirm if he was or wasn't Toya, when Magne and Toga came downstairs, followed by Twice. Twice and Toga were both skipping ahead of an amused Magne, talking about going to get their nails done. The three of them left almost as soon as they came down with a casual, see you later, Dabs, tossed behind them from Toga. He waited a few minutes, but then Hitoshi just had to know. That's you, right? Dabi closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened his eyes again, it seemed he made a decision. Yeah. Cool. Hitoshi glanced around, making sure they were the only ones there, and then said, Let me know if you don't want me to tell Sho and Natsu, because I definitely will be telling them if you don't say anything. They miss you. How have they been? How's Shouta? Dabi asked quietly. Hitoshi smiled softly. He's good, now at least. But from what he said, it took a few years after you died for them to get to where they are now. Shouta told me that after he got his scar, while he was still recovering, that's when when you died. And it seemed that was some sort of, wake-up call for his dad. Hitoshi shrugged. I've known Sho for a few years now, and while his dad will never be the dad of the year, Sho has told me he's better than he used to be. Dabi scoffed. Natsu backed up what Sho said. He's not as bad as they used to be. Natsu only wishes he had changed before you had to leave them. Hitoshi fell quiet for a while, letting the news sink in with Dabi. They've been in family therapy for a while. Izuku was leaning against Shouta, just having found out their parts in the attack. Apparently that had been an underground hero working with the League, and they had replayed the location of the bar where Toshi was being held. But Nomu had also attacked the training camp that Momo had placed a tracker on was at a separate warehouse. Izuku was going to be on the retrieval team on the bar, while Shouta and Hizashi were going to be at the warehouse. Originally, Shouta and Hizashi were going to be on the bar retrieval team, but when the organizers were told Screech was volunteering to join the attack, they recalled their forces. The team bar was going to consist of Screech, Hawks, Eggshot, and Miracle. While this is where Hitoshi was supposed to be, they had also told that many of the members of the league were going to be abandoning them, so those four should be enough to take care of them. The main forces were going to be to the warehouse. If they had one Nomu there, they might have more. Plus, All Might was sure that the man responsible for the league was going to be at the warehouse, so their main forces were going to be there. Shouta dropped a kiss to Izuku's hair. Be safe out there, and bring Toshi home. Izuku nodded with a chirp, and hugged Shouta. I will. Promise. It's the fact that that promise means so much. Like, so much. Like, that promise. We've already established that Izuku doesn't like to make promises he won't, like, he doesn't, like, he knows he can't keep. The fact that he made that promise means, hey, I'm gonna fucking keep this. If I die, I die, but I'm keeping this fucking promise. Like, I'll die, but Hitoshi will be back to you, okay? Alright? Great. Nice. Wonderful. You can't tell me that that's not. I feel like that's Izuku in this fanfic. I also want to talk about Dabi's characteristics. So obviously, this Dabi is OC-ish Dabi, which I'm not saying is bad. I like, there's certain characters that I like to see portrayed as OC-ish and less as their canonical version. Dabi is one of the characters, because canonical Dabi is kind of a bitch, if we're being honest. Like, I know some people are like, oh, he's just misunderstood. No. Canonical Dabi I see as a very poetic, sad poetic thing, right? In the sense of his hate for his father fueled him so much. He hates everything to do with his father, including his siblings, to the point where he lost all of his love. He became the thing he hates, right? Obviously, he doesn't have kids and is like, you know, like he became the thing that he hates in the sense of he's hurting his family, just like how Endeavor hurt his family. And why is he hurting it? Just to stick it to the man. Just to get revenge on Endeavor. He is so obsessed with getting revenge on Endeavor that he basically became Endeavor. He's as obsessed on getting revenge on Endeavor as Endeavor is to surpassing All Might. Quite literally, it's a poetic thing about the abused becoming the abuser, right? It's poetic because in all of his, you know, thing to try to stick it to the man, to try to be like, look at me, you're, you know, I became a villain. Ha ha ha. I'm gonna kill your greatest creation. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I want you to suffer, right? He's consumed by this rage. In trying to stick it to the man, he never escaped Endeavor. That's the thing. He never escaped Endeavor. To be led with such hatred. I'm not saying he needs to forgive him. No. But as I said before, there's a difference between forgiving someone and, you know, not forgiving someone, but moving on. Right? And in this sense, he has not forgiven, but he has not moved on. He is letting that moment, Endeavor, and all of the things Endeavor did, lead him. His waking moment is to stick it to Endeavor, right? Yes, he's no longer under Endeavor's quote-unquote grasp, but he's not free either. His waking thoughts is Endeavor. It is, as I said, poetic, because in a sense, he became what he hated most. And he's also controlled by Endeavor. Although he quote-unquote escaped and even had his own quote-unquote fake death, he never really truly escaped. His waking moment is all thanks to Endeavor. Quite literally. Literally not Todoroki, but Shoto, Natsu, and Fujumi, or however her name is pronounced, they're more closer to being free from Endeavor than Dabi is. And it's ironic and poetic, because out of the four of them, Dabi is the one who is physically free. Right? And Shouta is the one who is the most trapped, yet I feel like he's the most liberated out of all of them. Like, he's the most untrapped, because from what I've seen in the anime, I haven't read much of the manga up far, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna ignore certain cases. It seems like Endeavor has an indifference to, or not Endeavor, Shouta has an indifference to Endeavor. He's like, you exist. I'm not saying I like you, but you're there. You're there. I don't spend my waking moments thinking about you, but you exist. You're a thing. You're a living, breathing thing. I don't really give a shit about you. I'm being a hero because I want to be. You do whatever the fuck you want to do. I don't care about you. Kind of situation, right? Where obviously we see Fuyumi, she is trapped in the sense of wanting so much to have a quote-unquote happy family, which obviously stems from trauma. She wants that happy family, so she is bringing it in. I would not be surprised if later down the road she tries to create her own happy family, right? Marrying someone rich, or not necessarily rich, but someone who could provide for her, and then, you know, having kids and then loving them and, you know, projecting all her love onto them, in a sense of trying to heal her inner child from not having that family that she always wanted, and giving that family, you know, getting and creating a new family, right? Which is not necessarily a bad way of coping, right? She wants a family, but she's never gonna get a really truly healthy family with Endeavor. I do not care about his redemption arc. Fuck his redemption arc. It's never gonna happen. And then Natsu, he's not as trapped as Fuyumi, because right now Fuyumi is so entrapped with, I want happy family. Not Fuyumi, Natsu, he's still he's still left Endeavor, but there's obviously still that hate there. It's not as much as Dabi, right? Clearly not as much as Dabi, right? But there's still that hate there, right? He's physically also free, but he's still not completely free. He still has a little chains there. So I really like the characteristics of Dabi in this one. He seems to actually be caring in a sense, or at least he seems to be caring so far, right? Obviously, Dabi in the manga, not in the manga, but in canon, is an asshole who does not care about anything other than fucking killing Endeavor. That is his motive. He wakes up, and that's his motive. He has no dimensions. Dabi is not dimensional. All Dabi cares about is killing Endeavor. Dabi does not have dimensions, right? Do not get me wrong. Having a character like that can be very interesting, right? And we could add dimensions to a character like that. Like, imagine, instead of the story that we get of Dabi, right? Imagine we see this, right? Dabi is, like, hell-bent on this, to the point where he rejects everything else. You know, love interest? Fuck that shit. I can't focus on love. I need to kill Endeavor, right? And doing all of this, and we could obviously have a happy ending or a sad ending. Happy ending being, you know, him realizing, fuck, I never escaped. I'm still trapped by him. He's leading my fucking life, and then finally, you know, admitting to himself and healing from that, and becoming his own person, right? Or, you know, the sad and very poetic ending, which is him dying, and on his last dying breath, his last final thoughts, is the realization that he never truly escaped. I mean, both he realizes he never truly escaped, or he doesn't have to realize it, right? But I feel like that would be a little more poetic if he realizes, well, shit, I wasted all my life trying to kill Endeavor, and here I am dying, and I'm not even satisfied. That is, you know, because that's funny way of grief sometimes, and funny way of trauma. But Dabi's character is one that's very, very much not utilized as much. I mean, I have a character that's similar to Dabi in a sense, where they lead all their thing from hate. And at first, when you see them, they seem like a two-dimensional character. It's like, oh, this character just wants to, you know, do this one thing out of pure hate and rage, right? But then you start to peel back the layers, and you're like, oh shit, that's their front. That's their coping mechanism. What we're seeing isn't them. What we're seeing is their coping mechanism. And in the sense of Dabi, it would be nice to see where he, you know, moments where he just starts to, you know, peel back from just the hate and the coping mechanism of like, I need to kill Endeavor, and being him and himself, and then, you know, the fucking Endeavor thing comes back and he's like, no, I have to focus Endeavor, right? And stuff like that. So I really think this author did a wonderful job with Dabi. As I said, Dabi is a little OC-ish in this because this isn't canonical Dabi, and I like that. Do not get me wrong, canonical Dabi is not that bad. I do know some fanfictions where they do canonical Dabi correctly. I just feel like Horikoshi doesn't do canonical Dabi correctly in the sense that he's a very two-dimensional character, which I notice a lot with Horikoshi. There's a lot of two-dimensional characters, and if I'm being honest, I think the only character that is really three-dimensional, which understandably so, when you really truly focus on the fact that he's really three-dimensional and he has everything built up and he seems like an actual character who has, you know, thoughts, feelings, sentiments, and his character is built up in a way where it's believable. It's a good character build. I'm gonna be honest. It's like the best in the whole anime. And, you know, once you hear the name, it's, you know, Katsuki Bakugou, obviously. And it makes sense why he's always winning on the board. Obviously, people also vote for him because, like, some people be like that. But obviously, there's some people who probably, like, vote for him because, you know, he's, you know, a good character. Personally, if I were to vote, I would vote Bakugou because he's a really dimensional character. We see character development the best in him. We see his ups and downs. We see his insecurities. And he is such a three-dimensional, I would even say fourth-dimensional character because, honestly, there are so many ways you could take his character. In the sense, you could take his character like, you know, this author has taken it, or you could take the character as in another author has taken it. Like, there is so many ways to take it, and you could take it different ways, and it still feels like it's Bakugou, and it's nuanced, and it's good, and I love it. But obviously Horikoshi did not implement that with Dabi, which it would have been super interesting and super cool. And I mean, in this fanfiction, I want to see what the author does with Dabi, because Dabi is a really cool character that I really like to see when people play around with him and stuff. Same with Toga, and stuff like that. Also, Compress being a hero? Oh my god, okay. I see that. Alright. Okay, I see you. I see you. But I went on a whole ass rant. I'm so sorry, my guys. So, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.